out, and away we go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Here with a full house, Drew, Ed, Thomas, and I am Walker, and we are here recapping the first of the triple header. So excited about that. Racing every weekend. We are talking Spain. I want to get some quick reactions from the boys right now. Key takeaways from this weekend race. Drew, you want to start us off?
Yeah, for sure. Let's go. Spanish Grand Prix. Well, wasn't it nice to not have a safety car come out? Obviously for the safety factor, but it was just nice to see the boys race for once. It was good, and you got to see, a combination of driver skill, what the cars are looking like, and team orders, and what was the tire strategies, and how was the delivery of those strategies. I thought it was a fantastic Grand Prix, and there was lots of overtaking, which is a little bit more surprising than previous Spanish Grand Prix. And I guess key takeaways: Max drove the second fastest car the fastest, which is all the hats off to him. Lando Norris obviously was verbally and clearly disappointed with himself with what was based on his radio messages after the race. But I thought he had a great race. Obviously, if the strategy played out a little bit differently and he was a little bit more aggressive going into that first corner, I think things might have played out a little differently. But good headway from them. And Mercedes is picking up the slack big time. Obviously, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton had a couple of little battles there. But overall, I think that that car is looking quite pacey, which is a nice refresher from what we've seen for the last year and a half. So, yeah, man, what do you got on that one, Thomas?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was a pretty decent race as well. I was hoping for a little bit more rain, to be honest. I think that would have mixed up the grid a little bit more too. Kind of surprising that there was no safety car. Not complaining, but kind of also at the same time was expecting it. And at least once, it's almost like tradition for it to come out. Max again, won. He said, and the dominance of Red Bull is over. I don't think it's over. I think he's still gonna dominate, and Red Bull's gonna continue going. Lando showed up pretty good, surprising a little bit at some of the other players. Ferrari, Aston Martin. I don't know what's going on with them. They're kind of not up to par. So it was a little bit disappointing to see, but Alpine scoring double points, that was something different to see and exciting. Overall, a pretty solid, pretty decent race. Like I said, rain aspect was missing for me. I think if that would have sprinkled a little bit, it would have been more interesting to watch, more different strategies and stuff. But yeah, pretty decent race, Ed.
Well, definitely a decent race. Something I was very excited about in terms of like towards even the end. The last 12 laps was just like Lando Norris like really chasing down Max Verstappen. And for me, like immediately what arose in my head is just a new actual challenger now comes into the fray for Red Bull. It's no longer Mercedes, it's not Ferrari. And for two races now, Max Verstappen has said that McLaren is a faster car. McLaren has a better pace. McLaren is taking them and giving them problems now. So the pack has caught up, and not just caught up in the sense that McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, but actually a true rival has now joined the fray, and they're back in. And I mean, Zach Brown must be over the moon right now. Andreas Stella is just like, we need to tighten up the ship. We need to tighten up the strategy, because I think for this weekend, that was the only problem they had, was the strategy. Had they had good strategy, better pacing in terms of where they would actually take out Lando, replace his tires, longer stints, I think they would have gotten to Max. And Lando had pace. So a lot of things that have happened this weekend, but I focused a lot on that because now we have a Grand Prix, we have a Drivers' Championship. It's not going to be all Red Bull for the rest of the season. So looking forward to that.
This is very interesting. I have so many thoughts going through my head. I'm going to start with Drew. I'm going to respond to Drew first and his, celebration that there was no safety cars. I don't think I've ever heard you celebrate no safety cars, given that they add such like a dimension to the race. Obviously, you don't want anyone to die, but like no safety cars, you're really that happy about it?
I think it's not that there wasn't safety car. Obviously, like just like weather, and as Thomas said too, like when you add rain to the mix, the whole element changes. Everything changes, and that adds a little spice to it. But I think we've had so many races with a little spice to it. I think there's an opportunity for a race like this, especially Spain, where they used to do a lot of their preseason testing, and it's one of the tracks that they use to measure themselves on. This was a great opportunity to kind of see where those cars are at halfway, or a third of the way through the season, or whatever the length is into the season, to kind of see what all these upgrades have done and where the teams are on an apples to apples basis. And I just thought this was a race for once that we've had that safety cars hadn't decided anything. It was driver talent that really helped.
You got it. So you were really looking forward to like a real mundane race, like no excitement, just like
I thought it was
up,
pretty exciting race,
just straight up racing. No, it actually was pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm being a bit of a dick about it. I'm going to pick up on something else you said, Drew. You said Max Verstappen. What'd you say went quickest in the second quickest car, or something to that effect? The way you put it. And this reminds me of that argument that you often hear in Formula One, whether it's the driver or it's the car. And I think now you're starting to see the perfect example of a driver like Max Verstappen, who is a seasoned winner over, the past 3 years, but even prior to that, versus someone like Lando Norris, who's just kind of learning to win. Right. And he's able to do that with a car that maybe isn't as fast, but the way he manages the race, the way that he manages the scenario, the starts, whatever it might be, he's finding a way to come out on top. So, we can talk about that more later and dissect that a little bit more. But I think this is a really good comparison when you start to look at, how much of it is the car and how much of it is the driver. And Ed, you also brought up a little bit later that we have the emergence of, a new challenger, a new rival to Red Bull, maybe, supplanting what Mercedes' role was over the last few years as that official competition. But I don't know if I wanted to give it to McLaren yet. I don't know if they've earned it after 2 races. I think, they've had some decent results and some good qualities and things like that. But what does it take? Is that all it takes to become like the new official rival when everything seems so fluid within those top 4 teams, right? It seems, week to week, you had Ferrari at the beginning, then you have, Mercedes with a bit of an emergence, and Ferrari dropping back. You have Aston, which is nowhere, and McLaren, which has kind of landed in that number 2 spot for now. But does that give them the title as the new official rival to Red Bull?
I think we're just so desperate for any sort of competition of this Red Bull dominance that like F1 fans as a whole are just jumping all over any sort of, inkling that somebody else might have a car that might be fast enough on a few tracks, and we're taking it and we're running with it. And that's okay. Do I think? No, I don't think. You can have a couple great races, but you need to be doing this consistently. Because if you remember back to Ed's favorite season in 2021, it was Red Bull, Mercedes, Red Bull, Mercedes, Red Bull, Mercedes, back and forth. And until we see that happening on a race to race basis, then I'll believe it. But back to your point, Walker, is Max Verstappen really showing his true colors and why he will be remembered as one of the greats? 100%. I think if you put Max in Lando's car, he would be whooping him with it. And I just think that there's a little bit of confidence that needs to come out in Lando. And I would argue even George Russell as well, is they're not used to this winning pressure. And, somebody like Fernando Alonso, somebody like Lewis Hamilton, these guys have it in them already. And so they've been race winners on a consistent basis. And I don't think Lando and George have that until they get there. That's when you're going to see McLaren really put it to Red Bull.
I would beg to differ, because my basis of actually saying that it's a rival now was based on the tracks uh, where Red Bull performed and where McLaren performed really well. For example, like Miami, it's a new track, sort of like a street track, sort of like a city track. So definitely, it was one that Red Bull had always complained. Even Max had complained that they're not really strong there. And even in Monaco too, they're not as strong in small city tracks and street tracks. So my immediate thinking was that if you go to a traditional pure racetrack, which is Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, that it would be, it would be like a defining moment now for Red Bull to kind of like really show their chops. But the gap was still very small. Max did not win pole. It kind of shows for me that it is a rivalry now. I will say though, with a caveat that I agree with you guys in terms of like the experience of the teams, the experience of the strategy, the experience of the drivers. That word kind of like defines it now. We're in who's better than the other. Max has been winning for how many years now? And not just him himself, but like with his team. They're dialed in. Their car is to where it's supposed to be with the current strategy, with the current regulations. And McLaren is just catching up. But at this point, I think Red Bull has finally hit their ceiling. And it's now up to Max to see if he can push the car even further than its ceiling to beat McLaren, which has happened this Grand Prix. But what more for the succeeding Grand Prix? When we go to Silverstone, that's a fast track. Maggots and Beckett's alone, like that's where the beans will be shown for McLaren. So I'm looking forward to the next few races, and I stand on my saying that they are a rival now.
Is anybody else excited about looking at McLaren's beans? I'm quite excited at looking at McLaren's beans.
Of course you are.
Let's see some beans, boys.
I think something missing from this, if we are going to call this a rivalry at this point, or a main rival, they're just too friendly.
Yep.
There's no animosity left.
Like no, there's none.
Max and Lando are buddies. Zach Brown is a pretty jovial guy for now. Like, I feel like there's no friction. We need some friction. We need like them to like crash each other out in a race and then like
but that
start
was
some
the
shit.
Beautiful part about Red Bull and Mercedes is Christian Horner and Toto hated each other. They had
my
this,
God.
Professional like angst towards each other. You could see it like when they shook each other's hands, they looked each other in the eye and they said all the right things, but they meant F you underneath everything they were saying to each other. And it was I'm here for it.
They both want to be the bells of the ball, and
there we go. More beans and balls.
More beans and balls. Let's move on to winners and losers for the weekend. Really quickly, who's your winner? Who's your loser?
I'm good at the bottom of the constructors and the drivers for this one, because I don't think we're going to be talking about them a lot for the next few races. Winner for me is Zhou Guanyu. Like, he did pretty well, got out of Q1 rather, and even just like using a previous chassis and like really performing, which was like very different from the past few races he's had. Biggest loser for me would be Williams and Logan Sargent. Man, Logan Sargent was destroyed by all the pundits this weekend, and even Juan Pablo Montoya, I think he was already starting to say that, or there was a quote from him that Logan Sargent needs to start to find his future now post Formula One, because he is not going to get a seat. He's been in it for a few years now, and he is really not up to par with the standards and the speed and the pace. So I think this is pretty much, he's gone at this point, and I feel bad for him, but he's not up to par with with the rest of the field.
I'm gonna jump on that real quick, and I'm pretty sure Logan Sargent signed an NXT IndyCar contract for 2025 for next year. I don't know who with, but I saw that somewhere in the social media F1 motorsports world news. So yeah, so take a look for Logan Sargent in the IndyCar world next year. But quickly, my winners and losers. I'm going to go with my loser first. It's got to be Checo. After signing that contract, that 1+1 extension with Red Bull, I don't know if he just like took the foot off the gas, pun intended, or the nerves are getting to him again, and he's becoming halfway through the season, and he's not picking up that second half where guys like McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, both of those cars are consistently in the points and up high right below their teammate, right? And so Max is doing all the heavy lifting. Historically speaking, that's just the way it's been anyway. But at least Checo was providing some serious points in the way of second, third, fourth, fifth. But when he's coming in 8th, 9th, 10th place and getting penalties and all that kind of stuff, like he's just not the that second driver that Red Bull needs in terms of securing championships points. Now, in terms of winner, I'm going to give it to my boy Lewis, because it was really nice to see that man up on the podium again, and well deserved. He obviously not lucked out, but obviously the strategy that they decided to go with Lewis after seeing George on those hards and putting Lewis on the softs was obviously the right play. And Carlos Sainz obviously got the same unfortunate play, and he got the hards too, and Leclerc went on the softs, and that's kind of the reality between those two, and it is what it is. That's why teams have two cars and they play out different strategies with an A/B test. And yeah, I got to give it to my boy Lewis, man. It was nice to see him up on that podium again.
So for me, I'm going to give the winner. I got to, similar to Drew, go with Lewis. It's been a while since he's been on the podium, since he's had some success. And it was nice to see him fight back against George and maybe assert himself a little bit more on the track. I feel like the last few races, I don't know if they hadn't had like the fire in him, or I don't know what it was, but it was just really nice to see him kind of make that pass, because I think over the last few weeks, it could have been easy to see him just kind of like hang behind or lose too much time, but he got up there. He wanted that podium and he got it. For losers, I'm going to do VCarb. I don't know what the F they did to that car, but it was garbage. Those upgrades were no bueno. Like,
can we call them VCarb?
V-Garb, yeah, they were V-Garb last race, because they were nowhere. Even Tsunoda, who was having a pretty decent run of races, he was just not. Nobody was feeling it. So big losers. I'm gonna hand it off to V-Carb. Speaking of losers, I don't know if we want to touch on them a little bit, given what the expectations were, but. Is Ferrari in trouble right now, or is this just, are they just teething a little bit right now, trying to like figure a few things out, because it does not seem to be a great place to be right now, on the track or off the track.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's an organizational thing or if it's, the car just not progressing as quickly as the others, because Mercedes and McLaren look like they figured it out, and I don't know if Ferrari's going down the Aston Martin route, but all these upgrades are seeming to, put them further and further behind. I don't know if it's a track specific issue, but I really don't think so, because there's been a couple races in a row where, there's been some power issues early on. And, Carlos was whining about that, much like Leclerc was in the previous Grand Prix. But I don't think Ferrari's in a good spot right now. I don't know what's wrong, but I think that they have a lot of work to do if they want to start collecting some serious points in order to fight for those championships.
Yeah, I think the problem right now, post Monaco, I think they put all of their eggs in Monaco, and it's just that after that, like their pace, they had issues with the engine in Canada, and yeah, it's just like they're not there right now. There could be a bunch of upgrades that are in the horizon, but whatever they've done to the car, it's definitely not up to snuff with the rest of the field. And I would say like they are in trouble post the triple header in Europe. If they don't come out of Silverstone and really like show what they have or what they have up their sleeves, then yes, I can safely say that there's something wrong there, and Fred Vassar needs to crack the whip again and try to figure out who is, dropping the ball and who needs to kind of like step it up in terms of delivering for the drivers and delivering for the team.
I wonder how Lewis is feeling right now. I'm sure he's wildly conflicted. Like, he's super happy that Mercedes is starting to go in the right direction, but he's like, I'm not here next year. What does this mean for my future?
Yeah, I was watching the race and, analyzing Ferrari and kind of trying to think about this, because obviously they were struggling all weekend, and I couldn't help but think if the cars are just being weighed down a little bit by Carlos's Sainz tears, because I feel like he's just crying about everything right now. The man is just whining. All right, he's whining in the race about him and Lewis. He's whining about strategy. I feel like he is so done with them. Like, he just needs this to be over. And I don't know if he's got another contract signed somewhere, but if I was listening in and I was like, this is who I want to bring on my team, or maybe not, like, it would not be an attractive proposition. Like, I'd be calling Ocon at this point, being like, hey, Esteban, like, what's up? But maybe it just sounds whinier with a Spanish accent. I don't know.
There is a certain tone in his voice that when, like, he's talking normally, it is quite sexy and a little romantic, with that accent. But as soon as he starts complaining, it just goes whiny, and I'm not having it. I'm not here for it.
Sergio has the same kind of affect in his voice, I feel like. It's got to be a Spanish thing.
You mean Fernando?
That's what I'm calling it. Yeah, no, Sergio. Perez.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. He's, Mexican, Spanish. Spanish language.
Ish, okay.
Spanish language. All right. Anyways, that's my one dig at Carlos. The tears are weighing down the car. Let's look forward to Austria. Red Bull's home race. Also Toto's home race. Another kind of classic Grand Prix track. Quick predictions for next week. Drew, you want to start us off?
Yeah, before I get to my predictions, I noticed that there was a few, what should we say, penalties handed out last year, like Oprah, during this race. Everybody, 10-second penalties, over track limits. Everybody had penalties last year. And what I noticed and what I saw and what I read about them updating the course, they put a couple gravel traps in some very convenient places that will make it almost impossible for these guys to be going over track limits. And I think it's going to make for a very interesting Grand Prix. I do predict that the safety car will be coming out in a big way at this track. And predictions, I think Max is going to just, he's that type of guy that uses the pressure and harnesses it and runs with it. And I think he's absolutely going to smash this out of the park, even if he does not have the fastest car. I would love to see the confidence still pull through with McLaren, but I would love to see a battle for third place between Ferrari and Mercedes. I would really like that. I would actually like to see Alpine crush it a little bit more too. I think for a works team, they need to start picking it up, and to have both the boys end up in the points last week was fantastic. And I'd love to see that again from them. Aston Martin at this point, I'm kind of not rooting for them anymore, just because they just can't figure out the Lance Stroll issue. And I think until they figure out the Lance Stroll issue, they're not going to get anywhere. And I think that there has to be some very hard decisions made there. And, inviting Lance to leave might have to be the smartest play there.
No brainer there. No brainer.
I knew I was going to taunt you with that one.
I can't believe we forgot to talk about Lance Stroll and that move in, what was it? Was it like was it qualifying? No, it was FP3 or something like that, right?
FP3, yeah.
Yeah. Where he was like complaining that Lewis within his way and then proceeds to like throw his car into the side of him.
Yeah.
What, like a straight up tantrum.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly Lance Stroll in a nutshell. And if you ever have any questions about free practice, just ask Eddie. He'll tell you everything.
Why do you guys have to dig in free practice? That's where all my predictions are based upon.
And how's that going for you?
Really, I know. I was going to
Nothing.
say you should
Zip
watch a little
nada.
closer.
Zero. But yeah, Lance Stroll, please lead Formula One. Take Logan Sargent with you. I mean, I do want to say that I want to comment, Drew, on what you just said about Alpine. They may bounce back. You know, they just brought back the infamous Flavio Briatore. I don't know if you guys knew about how he was banned before, and he's back as a consultant because technically he should be banned from Formula One, but we'll see. I think there could be a few tricks up his sleeves that he might apply to Alpine. I am looking forward to McLaren really taking this again to Red Bull. I am also looking forward to Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes to see how they can actually perform in high speeds. It's a high speed track with a bunch of tight corners, and very excited about the battles that could be won or lost in this race. Ferrari, I will hold my tongue up until the actual qualifying results come out and see how that works, because it is my favorite track. I am going to be rooting for Ferrari next year because I'm a Lewis fan, as we all know. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Super excited for the next race and even going down to Silverstone too.
So, quick predictions for Austria. I think the podium is going to see 2 Mercedes drivers with 1 Red Bull driver on there. So you guys can take that as you wish. I think McLaren's going to have an off week. I don't know why. Just I've been watching FP1, 2, and 3, so my predictions are going to be as strong as Ed's. But I think McLaren is going to be a little. I think you know what? Just going on a feeling, baby. Sometimes you just got to roll with it.
That's it.
Absolutely zero logic involved. But that's why you guys tune in. You know what? Everybody listening to this, you can join the Discord. You can tell us your predictions for next race. We'll put the link for the channel in the show notes. Come join us, join the conversation, and show us what some real predictions look like. Unless we get it right, in which case,
and watch FP1. FP1 and watch FP1.
Yeah, absolutely. Boys, there's only one way to wrap up an episode like this. A great episode like this. Another great episode. I feel like we're on a roll. And that is with Name That Sponsor.
Name that sponsor. Name that sponsor.
We really got to decide on some music.
Again is Name That Sponsor.
Thank you. You all know how it works. I'm going to name 3 sponsors. You're going to tell me which team they are on and what the company does. I got a couple of really good ones today. I'm really excited.
No softballs like last week?
No softballs like last week, which oddly enough, Chris, who joined us last week, it was his first time playing, and he is already surpassed Thomas and Ed in points. So there we have it.
Okay. All right.
So
That's a tough balance.
let's start this off. I'm going to pull up my trusty score sheet. Let's go. The first sponsor is Blenders.
All right. Blenders. It's got a Z on it. Is it Blenders with a Z?
It's spelled correctly with an S.
Blenders. I can see it in my head. Anyways, I'm going to say it's on V-Carb, and it is I have no idea. They make kitchen equipment like a blender.
Oh, very literal of you.
Stick F1 3D animation software.
All right. Well, Yeah, no one was really close. Drew, I guess we were kind of close. They're on Red Bull, like the main Red Bull team, and they are obviously sunglasses and eyewear.
Duh.
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right in the name.
Blenders.
Speaking of obvious names, the next one is Sprinkler. This one not spelled correctly, just LR. Sprinkler.
Okay, so this one is definitely on Alpine, and it is going to be fire safety.
Fire safety. All right.
I'd say Haas and Sprinkler. Jesus. I would say a SaaS company for manufacturing. I'll go with that.
All right. Well, Drew got a point. It is on Alpine,
Oh, hello.
which is very impressive because you said that with some authority too. That wasn't a
Yeah,
guess.
that is obviously on Alpine.
It's obviously, yeah. And Sprinkler is a software that scales generative AI across your front office with autonomous and intelligent AI versions of your brand, teams, and employees. Go beyond conversations, make decisions, design workflows, and execute tasks at scale.
So SaaS Logistics?
Nope. AI something. Something
Good
with
try,
AI.
buddy. Good try.
Yeah, and
I
you
saw
gotta
you
get those
pushing
points.
for that.
Last one is PureStream. PureStream Inc. If we're getting specific.
PureStream is going to be on Aston Martin, and it is a like a streaming platform similar to like Zoom.
I would say McLaren, Media Hub, or Media Streaming Solution.
Thank you, Ed. So you're
No
all
problem.
wrong. Sorry, it's nice that I get to say that twice, though. You're all wrong 3 times. It's actually on Williams, and PureStream leads the way in advanced wastewater treatment equipment.
That was my
Now,
second guess.
I'm going to send you guys the link in the chat here for PureStream because I have no idea how you can have millions upon millions of dollars to sponsor an F1 team, but have a website that hasn't been updated since like 1995.
I'm going
Oh
to
my
it.
God.
Please click on this.
I'm going to it currently. Oh yeah,
Like,
95 is generous too. Like
That
this
might
is
be
like
generous.
the early 90s. Yeah.
for those of you that want to look it up, it's purestreaminc.com. Go message them and tell them to like either invest in actually, no, I like Williams, so they can keep investing in Williams, but like do something with that website. But
Wow.
because that is
Wow.
you know what?
You
This
should
is when you rely
That is
on like
bad.
referrals. This is just straight referral business because
Yeah.
no one goes to their website.
Yeah.
No,
No.
Fiverr.
yeah.
Higher.
Oh man, that's a tough bounce.
Anyways, PureStream, way to go! If you can like get F1 money with a website like this, then
They got extra money because they're not spending it on their website. That's for sure.
that's it. But if they can do this, then we can sponsor an F1 team.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
we should be up
sky's the
on deck
limit.
for an F1 team. Yeah.
Let's
F1
do it.
True
Let's do
North.
it.
Coming soon to a car near you. Boys, that was fun. This has been another episode of Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, tell your friends, join the Discord, leave a review. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, all the socials, Instagram. Am I missing anything?
TikTok. Boom, boom, boom.
TikTok.
FP1.
All right.
F1.
Everyone. Yeah. All right. The streams for FP1 are going to blow up now.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Formula One TV can thank us later. All right, boys, that was fun.
That was it.
Talk again soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.
lights out, and away we go.